Welcome to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Nicholson, crime scene investigator turned functional health investigator. This podcast is here to share bite-sized episodes and unique interviews on a wide variety of health topics to empower, enlighten, and educate you to live your best, most vibrant life. Disclaimer: all information you hear on this podcast is for information only and constitutes individual opinions of the person speaking. This should not be taken as medical advice. Being a listener of this show does not initiate a practitioner-client relationship between you and the hosts or panelists on this show. Please discuss these topics with your medical professionals before making any changes to your health. Okay, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Holistic Health Bites podcast. Today we are talking all about the quickest and best ways to torch visceral fat. Let's first discuss the different types of body fat. Subcutaneous fat is the fat just under the skin that we can pinch and jiggle. This is the fat that we often talk about wanting to lose, but this fat isn't actually all that dangerous. It helps us to regulate body temperature, stores energy for times of fasting or famine. It's protecting muscles and bones from impact. This type of fat is generally considered protective. Of course, too much of even a good thing can become a bad thing. Visceral fat is the type of fat that is stored deep internally within the abdominal wall surrounding the organs. This type of fat is much more dangerous and produces inflammatory chemicals and hormones, leading to tissue damage and disease dynamics throughout the body. This type of fat accumulates where there shouldn't be much fat, if any, such as the liver, heart, pancreas, and muscles. This type of fat is directly related to insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, fatty liver disease, and so many more conditions. So clearly, visceral fat is the type we want to get rid of. But how? Here are 5 research-backed methods that can help reduce visceral fat. Number 1, intermittent fasting. Number 2, sprinting. Number 3, hippuric acid. Number 4, Urolithin A. And number 5, the ketogenic diet. So let's talk briefly about each of these. Intermittent fasting has long been studied for its wide-ranging benefits for disease reversal and prevention, fat loss, spiritual connection, mental health, and so much more. Numerous studies have shown that when it comes to weight loss, fasting is protective of muscle and bone, while specifically targeting fat. Sprinting is a type of exercise that has been shown to have dramatic benefits for reducing body fat and especially visceral fat. Specifically, research has compared moderate intensity exercise to interval training, like sprinting, and found interval training to be far superior for elimination of visceral fat. Hippuric acid and Urolithin A were looked at in this particular study. They took groups of people and randomized them into 3 different groups and examined them over 18 months. One group followed the healthy dietary guidelines, one group followed a healthy Mediterranean diet, and the third group followed a healthy Mediterranean diet with the addition of high-polyphenol foods such as green tea and Wolffia globosa, which is a green plant added to a shake. Hippuric acid is a polyphenol found in fruits and vegetables, coffee, tea, and nuts. Can also be made from various metabolites created by our gut microbes. Higher levels of hippuric acid have been associated with larger reductions in visceral fat. Urolithin A is a compound, again, produced by our gut bacteria from ellagic acid and ellagitannins that are found in plants such as blueberries, pomegranates, walnuts, and almonds. This particular comparative study showed superior weight loss in both the Mediterranean groups as compared to the dietary guidelines group, with superior visceral fat loss in the group with the higher polyphenol intake. And lastly, let's discuss the ketogenic diet. Nutrition is by far the most important factor when it comes to all health outcomes. And in fact, none of the rest of this list will work very well without an overall healthy diet. Now, before we even begin, a ketogenic diet is not the only healthy diet, nor is it the best nutrition plan for everyone to follow. A brand new study was just published looking at the impact of a ketogenic diet on weight loss, metabolism, body composition, and quality of life. This came in 2 parts. The first was a 3-week feasibility study in healthy, lean participants. And the second was a 3-month intervention in overweight or obese adults. They designed this ketogenic plan to be eucaloric, meaning there was no change in calories as compared to the control group. They measured body composition, blood panels, and obtained scores participants provided related to overall quality of life. And they used ketone monitors to confirm that the participants were actually getting into ketosis. The control group consumed a mixed macronutrient diet. The results of both phases of this study showed weight loss in both the healthy and the obese individuals, despite being eucaloric. So no change in the control group versus the ketogenic groups, and yet the ketogenic groups still lost weight. And they noted that those with the most weight to lose lost the most. Both total and visceral fat were reduced, but muscle and bone mass were maintained. This is huge because many weight loss interventions result in both muscle and bone loss, which is a negative for health outcomes. The healthy population in the 3-week intervention, visceral fat was reduced by 10.8%. And in the 3-month obese intervention, visceral fat was reduced by 14.7%. They also saw reductions in C-reactive protein, which is an inflammatory marker, increases in HDL cholesterol, and sustained ketosis throughout the study. Surprisingly, quality of life scores improved across all domains as well, reducing fatigue, improving physical and emotional outlook, amongst others. I like this study for a variety of reasons. It shows that this nutrition therapy is safe, doable, sustainable, and effective for a variety of outcomes. It also shows just how dramatically quality nutrition can impact overall health, pain sensation, energy, mental health, inflammation, and more. As I've said before, I always recommend starting with diet. Supplements, exercise, and other interventions are helpful, but they won't overcome a poor diet. And the ketogenic diet is only one option. It is a very powerful option, but it isn't the only path to success. Until the next, be well and vibrant. Thanks for being a faithful listener to the podcast. Did you get value from listening to this show? I'd love it if you left me a review on this podcast so that others can more easily find this valuable information. Did you know I also work one-on-one with clients and my practice is entirely virtual? I approach solving health challenges like I approached solving crimes, by conducting a thorough investigation into your case. Sadly, hundreds of millions of people in the US have poor metabolic function, insulin resistance, prediabetes, and diabetes, and the vast majority have no idea because their doctors aren't looking in the right places. I'm here to fix that without unnecessary medications. If you struggle with low energy, stubborn weight, hypertension, sleep disturbances, or any other undesired symptom, and you want a natural, lasting approach to correcting the problem rather than masking symptoms, apply to work with me. The link is in the show notes.